Listen, a lot of women, especially black women, and I might get in trouble for saying this, but I will. In the in our society right now, black women are making a lot more money for the most part than black men, right? There are a lot of black men who are successful, but for the most part, black women are making the money. So if you can find love, if that man works, at whatever job and is a good man and is good to you and honors the house and honors his wife and does what he can because his gift may not be your gift.
Exactly.
That is okay. That's not somebody who's beneath you.
Yeah.
That's somebody who came to love you at your worth, right?
Yes.
And as long as he's secure in himself to know that, yep, she makes most of the money, all I can pay is the light bill. As long as she's comfortable enough to say, I'm going to cover the mortgage and all the other stuff, you handle the light bill, baby, you can take me to dinner every now and then. That is fine.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
But that's so hard for a lot of people to take in because that means, no. I need somebody who is, they need to make 5 times more and I got to have, well, go on, keep your list, baby.
Yeah.
God bless you. Hope it happens. Go on, keep your list. But when you talk about just someone to love you and support you, I know people whose men can't touch what they make. But when you see them together, that love, that support, that I got you, babe, it's a beautiful thing.
All right, so you heard a snippet of the season 2 premiere for Crystal's podcast, Keep It Positive, Sweetie. Tyler Perry was the guest, and I did a video on it recently where I just gave my thoughts on the episode. I watched it, I want to say the same day it came out, either the same day or the following day, but it was not long after Crystal dropped it. And I really liked the episode. And on top of that, I saw Tyler Perry trending over the weekend as well. Not long after the episode dropped, he was trending. And I mean, Crystal's numbers have definitely gone up. I saw that the podcast was charted on, I believe, Apple. I know Media Traffic and a few other outlets posted about it. And Tyler's clip just went viral. The bit you heard at the opening of this video where he talked about black women, specifically those who make a lot of money, and it shouldn't be beneath them or something to date a man who makes significantly less. Now, let me put it this way. You all know, first of all, I'm a black man. Second, I'm not a billionaire. Third, I'm not a black woman, so I wouldn't know what it's like to be a woman, let alone a black woman in the dating game. Some of the stats Tyler was, dropping, like, how black women making more than black men. I don't know if that's entirely accurate. I wish that when people drop numbers like that, they would give sources, that way we can look it up. But, if I'm not mistaken, in the job market, don't women still make a percentage less than men? And like I said, I don't know the exact facts and figures, but it just seemed to me like, I don't want to say he was sputtering nonsense. I don't want to say that. It's just like, he was just saying what he felt. But in situations like that, I really wish there were sources to pull from, for the average everyday Joe. Plus, he's a billionaire. Well, he just recently became a billionaire, but he's been in the money game and around people in high society for a number of years now. So obviously his perspective isn't going to be the same as someone like me. But a lot of people, specifically black women, and it's funny because Tyler opened his statement saying, women, especially black women, I know it's going to give me a lot of trouble for saying this, but basically a lot of people took what he said, and I don't know if I want to say people took it the wrong way, because the way I perceive what he said could be completely different than how you perceived it. But my takeaway from what he said was that a lot of black women who make a lot of money have, outlandish requirements for the men that, that, you know, oh, you want to date me, you need to make like 5 times as much as I do, and you know, you have to have this big house and this, that, and the third. Basically outlandish expectations, as opposed to giving up or not even looking in the direction of a guy who doesn't really have a lot, but he's loving, he's loyal. He might not have as much money or not even able to touch the amount of money that you have, but he chips in to pay the light bill. Basically, he's a man with not a lot of resources, but he's a man who puts all he can into helping, like, you know, keep up the home, or, you know, the finances, or whatever, you know, whatever the case may be. He cooks, cleans, whatever. A lot of people didn't like that because they were like, oh, there you go Tyler Perry again. You know, it really shows in his writing and the movies and the shows that a black woman always has to settle for like a man who doesn't have a lot. It's always the black woman that has to settle for less, as opposed to, you know, as Kevin Samuels would say, you know, get a high value man. Like, how come a woman who makes 6 figures can't have the expectations of, you know, being with a millionaire and this, that, and the third? Well, my takeaway was, and this, look, like I said, this is just me. And what's funny was, remember a couple of months ago, Steve Harvey was trending because of what I felt was a ridiculous statement, where he talked about the problem with men today, specifically like younger men, is they want to ask a woman what they bring to the table. And it's like, a woman can make another you, in reference to the children. A woman can make another you. That's all she needs to bring to the table. I'm like, that's one of the dumbest just Neanderthal ways of thinking I ever heard of. The way Tyler put it, and like I said, this is just how I see it, I feel like the biggest the 2 takeaways: women who have black women who have outlandish requirements for a man to court them or date them. It's like they have, you know what, I'm a woman of standard, I make 6 or 7 figures, they need to make like 5 times as much as I do. That's not very likely that you'll find someone like that. It's not it's like winning the lottery. It's not impossible. It's not very likely. And then the second takeaway is, typically you have black women who will go out with the Pookies, the Ray Rays, and the Tyrones, who don't have a damn thing going for them. Don't know how to keep a job. Got a bunch of kids running around by different baby mamas. Puts no effort, no work into the relationship. They cheat on you. They don't help out with any bills, let alone romantic dinners or whatnot. All they do is, you know, apparently they're good in the bed, and that's about it. Like, most, you know, and I don't want to say most, there are women like that who have a lot of money, who have a lot of success, but they will settle for that kind of person, no hesitation. But yet you have the nice guy, the one who is loving, the one who is kind, the one who doesn't have kids running around, and maybe they have like 1 kid at best with 1 baby mom that they're on good terms with or something, or maybe a failed marriage. But that guy, the one who doesn't have 6 figures, but maybe he makes like $30,000 a year or something like that, and he does help out when he can on the bills, and he does take, you know, the woman out on dates, you know, that he can afford, and he is attentive, he is loyal. That's the kind of guy that will just get completely looked over. So it's a matter of, do you think Tyler was telling women to just go below their standards in datings, or be a bit more realistic about their standards? I mean, think about like the majority of women, whether they have 6 figures or whether they have $6, most, you know, majority of them want to go for like the 2% of men, you know, the ones that do make 6 figures and above, the ones who, you know, are famous or, you know, handsome, incredibly successful. And not everybody's going to get that guy. So instead of having these shooting for the stars in terms of what they have on their personal list for the man that they want, it's not impossible to find love with the guy who works at, you know, Target or something like that. So in a way, I can see why people might get mad at what Tyler said, but we live in a society where people listen to react or respond as opposed to listening to comprehend. Yeah, was his, example a bit shaky and, not fully well thought out in a way. But like I said, it goes back to him saying that black women make more than black men, but they're really, I couldn't find any resources that, supported that statement. And it's kind of funny because when you look at the writing aspect of it, you look at Fatima, law student working at a law firm, has a nice apartment, a nice car for herself. She falls in love with a jailbird who, was riding around on a bike. And yeah, I could see that people do make a point that Tyler's perspective is definitely in his writing for the various shows he's in, like Diary of a Mad Black Woman. You got Helen, who was married to the lawyer, Charles, and then she winded up with the dude who worked at like a factory or something like that. Whatever his name was, I forgot. It's been so long since I watched the movie. I know Orlando, or was it Orlando? Orlando. And yeah, I feel like there's a long list of. Oh, here's another example. Look at Sisters and Andy. Successful, making six figures or more per year. Not to mention that $1.5 billion settlement she got back in season 2. And she in an affair with Gary, someone who was already married, successful former athlete turned stockbroker. And you got people like Paris, a guy who lives with his mom, who's loving, sends her flowers and all, but she, just passes over him in favor of the toxic Gary. So that's another example of, in the writing, you have Tyler having a woman with outlandish expectations. So it's funny because you have this woman who will put up with all types of shit from a guy who has money and whatnot, but then who could be married. But then on the flip side, you also have women of success who deal with a lot of shit from a guy like a Tyrone, a Pookie, or a Ray Ray, who has no ambitions, no money, no job, bunch of baby mamas, bunch of kids running around, aren't loving at all, just don't do a damn thing, but they love that street person, and he's good in bed. But then you have the guy who's kind of in the middle ground, the one who doesn't have 6 or 7 figures per year, but has a steady job, is successful in terms of doesn't have a criminal record. He has money in his bank account, his 401k. He's not living with his parents. He's a good man, but he's overlooked because he doesn't meet, all these outlandish expectations. So, yeah, I mean, hey, people are going to get mad. I mean, ever since like Kevin Samuels, anytime like a man has especially a black man has a perspective of how women nowadays have just unrealistic expectations, they're going to talk about it on the internet. They're just going to go viral for things that were said. But like Tyler said towards the end of his message, well, hey, if you don't like, what I said, or you don't want to go for the man who is loving and whatnot because he doesn't make as much money as you want to, stay single until you find Mr. Right, who is 100% the man you want, 8 figures, big mansion, yada, yada, yada. Go ahead. Wait, that's on you. But the thing is, that's kind of like his disclaimer. It's like, hey, I'm going to tell you what I think, but at the end of the day, you make your choice. And that's true, regardless of whether or not you agree or disagree with Tyler Perry or a Steve Harvey or the women on The Talk or The View or all these number of other podcasts out there hosted by men or women who talk about like the manosphere or, women who deserve this, yada, yada, yada. You need to do what works for you. That's what it really boils down to. Tyler Perry's a billionaire. Steve Harvey's a millionaire. Some of these podcasters make 6-7 figures a year talking, what they feel about relationships and love and whatnot. And it's kind of funny because Beyonce talking about like single ladies and putting out Lemonade and I Need a Soldier and talking about how, oh yeah, you don't need a man and whatnot. And you got to have all these requirements before you get with me. Bills. Basically, oh yeah, Beyonce saying to break up with your man and, do your own thing, be a strong, independent woman. All the while she's married and has kids. A marriage with some ups and downs, but guess what? They still rocking. So you don't have to be completely influenced by these people of status. Because at the end of the day, when you cut off the podcast, when you turn off the television, when you turn off Spotify or whatever, it's going to be you, and either you by yourself or you and the person you're with. So never let too many of these voices, these outside voices, make an influence on you that causes you to wind up alone. Or if you want to be alone forever, that's cool. I'm 32, single, no prospects in terms of girlfriends or fiance or anything like that. I do my own thing. And if it just so happens to, I meet someone in the future and I want to get down on one knee and give her a ring, so be it. But I think what it boils down to is, and I'm not going to get too personal, tell you my whole life story at the end of this video, but I think for me, it's funny because relationships are like a business in terms of, when you go on that first date, it's kind of like a job interview. You both list out expectations and requirements and yada, yada that you expect out of your potential partner. And if you click, well, date number 2, see where it goes. If you don't click, hey, it was nice meeting you. Thanks for taking the time. Let's try to get to know each other. But, it's not going to work out. I wish you best of luck. It's funny because me and my roommate, and this is something that I really plan to apply in different areas of my life. We knew each other in college for I think maybe the last year of college. We kind of knew each other because of the same friend group. And before we moved in together, because we stayed roommates for 5 years, we met up at the food court at the mall, and we just had a quote unquote roommate interview with each other, just asking each other questions like, hey, so, what's your take on, cleaning, taking out the trash, yada, yada, yada. Are you noisy? We got separate rooms. We don't barge into another person's room without knocking or asking first, that kind of thing. And guess what? Compatibility worked because, like I said, we rocked together for 5 years. So I feel like the same thing kind of applies for, a relationship where you and the other person talk about, likes, dislikes, hobbies. Do you plan on moving in the future? What's your career look like? Kids, religion, politics, all that stuff. So yeah, I feel like you got to do what works for you. That's really what it boils down to. What Tyler said didn't ruffle my feathers that much because, like I said, what he said mainly pertains to black women. But yeah, how do you feel about it? I know a majority of my audience is comprised of women. So I would really love to get your feedback on what's your take on what Tyler Perry said on Crystal's podcast. Do you agree with what he said? Do you disagree with it? Just tell me why in the comments, and I hope we have a good discussion out of this. So like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.